Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from around the world, talking with makers from around the world. Here's Jamie Page, Steve Twidell, Chris Cute, and now your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is. It's late this evening because we've spent so long trying to get started. And wherever you are listening, joins me as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
How you doing?
I can hear you this time as well. Excellent, Mr. Steve Twidell. I actually can't hear Steve, and I'm hoping that's because
hello, I'm only messing.
Why did I know he was going to do that? Why did I know? Anyway,
I kind of walked into that. For anyone that didn't listen last week, I spent basically the entire show. I couldn't hear a word Chris was saying, and then we get in tonight, and we're chatting about other stuff, and I couldn't hear Steve. So the internet hates me. I think we all knew that anyway. But nerves.
He's lucky though. He can always hear me.
Yeah, and also I always have to listen to him. It's Jamie Page.
Hello.
Very quickly, I'm going to try and get my head around what we're talking about because it's kind of still sinking in. But while I'm trying to do that, I'll try and multitask and do just the normal shout outs, thank yous, etc., etc. So as per is sort of the recent norm, I haven't got any shout outs because I've been away on hollybobs in somewhere else. And so I'm going to do the live chat people, and we're going to start off with Peter Miller, Wayne the Wood Turner, Anna B. We love Anna B. Anna B's awesome. Fix It Up, Make It New, AH Bespoke, hi Andy, Eddie, Maggie Billiot, Mark K. Make, and let's pick another one at random, just scroll through. Eddie Billiot, so Eddie and Maggie are here. I like that. There's two people. They're probably sat next to each other watching us, but it helps with the views. So big shout out to all those live people that are in the live chat. So do take part and we'll try and get to you. I think tonight, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, is going to be quite a interactive, chatty with the live audience thing, hopefully, if we get it right.
I hope so, if we get it right. I mean, yeah, because, we don't have all the answers and people are going to definitely disagree with us. So, yeah, we want to have everybody chime in and let their voice be heard.
I mean, to be fair, we'll probably not get it right, but we'll try. That's the main thing.
I know we're not going to get it right, but that's why we want people. That's why we need help.
Judging by the way the rest of the evening's gone, we're definitely not going to get it right.
Awesome. So, as always, tonight's podcast is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, with Turner's Abrasive Paste, our good friend Chad from Mancrafting, and Pam from Highland Boxes, who's still giving away some of their awesome, and they really are awesome. I don't just say this every week, I genuinely mean it, awesome hybrid blanks. If you want to find out more about our sponsors, head on over to the website, makersinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors, and Jamie puts all that kind of information up there on the website. And I think we've got some new stuff on or coming onto the website or links or something, but Jamie will probably mention that in his biography towards the end. Chris, do we have
biography towards the Jamie's life? Anyway, okay.
What was that show on telly where this is your life with the big red book?
Michael Aspel.
Yeah, this is your life. This is your life, Jamie. Okay, that Richard. One time a year you're actually funny, and there it was.
Yes, that's it. So tune in this time next year, and I'll probably have thought something else. So, Chris, save us. Do we have any random list of questions from the week?
We do, and I'll be honest with you, I was hesitant to bring this question to you guys today because it sounds like it, in a roundabout way, it sounds like we're not us, but as a community, we're trying to pat ourselves in the back, and that's not where this question originated from. I have a friend.
Just the one?
Yeah, I have one. I have one friend, and she's an older lady, not older as far as old, but older than me. So don't. All right, shut up.
That's old.
Who definitely follows my posts and then also reads all the comments from the people that, chime in on my posts. And then she started listening to us on the podcast like 4 months ago, and I don't think that she does it religiously. So in that case, I'm not going to mention her name because she didn't know I was going to bring this up. But she asked a question that I think is worth answering. And I'm not going to let Steve or Jamie answer this first because I know what their answer will be. Their answer will be, I don't understand this woman. I'm awesome. But her question is, and Richard, I'll point this to you. She says, why are so many of you creative and skilled people so humble about what you do? Don't you understand that there's a world out there that would love to have your skill and knowledge? Do you not understand how impressive you are to those who have no clue? And I know what my answer was to her, so I'm not going to repeat that now. But Richard, I'll give it to you because I think I can probably get an honest answer out of you as opposed to Steve or Jamie, who I'm sure will hop on the
bollocks then.
This woman's crazy. I'm friggin' awesome. Anyway, so Richard, do you understand where that question is coming from? First of all,
just ask the question again, just so I can get it in my head right. Why are people so humble about the skills?
Why are so many of you creative and skilled people so humble about what you do? And then the follow-up was, do you not understand that from people who don't have a clue, you are extremely impressive? And she asked this because of a post that I made several weeks ago, and she was looking at the answers I was getting, and she had no clue. And so she's obviously somebody who has no clue about the maker world that we currently are in, and she's extremely impressed by it. But she's asking why we are humble about our own skills when it comes to what we do.
Okay, I think there will always be a certain amount of humbleness from people because on the one hand, if you can do something and you can do it well, it presumably isn't, from your perspective, isn't difficult. So, but from somebody else's perspective, like I'm in awe of people that can just sit, like hear a bit of music, sit in front of a piano, and then repeat the bit of music. Some people can do that, and they find. I used to live with a guy at university who he played 4 or 5 instruments, and you could do that, just play him a thing, and he'd just write you a ringtone on your phone for it. So, yeah, you just playing the music, and it just had a musical brain. Some people, they see algebra equations, and they just mean something to them. And if you haven't got the skill, it's like magic,
right?
So I think there's always going to be that because it's from your perspective, not the other person's perspective. Right. Anytime somebody says that to me, I mean, it's not a case of being humble. I'd see it as a logical point of view. Well, it's not hard for me because it's not a skill. It's not. I don't find it difficult. Therefore, it's not some mystical skill. Likewise, you've got a skill. You're bound to have a skill that I haven't got, that you think's easy and I think's impossible.
Right. I mean, we're talking about a woman who is impressed the fact that you can do a finger joint box and put a lid on it. I mean, she's that impressed. And I'll tell you what my answer to her was. I said, and without mentioning her name, I said, it's not that we are humble. I said, honestly, I mean this with all my heart. The craft keeps us humble. Because first of all, not every single one of us, I mean, there's 99.9% of us that are not masters, that do not know everything there is to know and can do everything that's possibly can be done. And so therefore we've stopped learning, because even if I thought I did know everything and thought I could do everything, as soon as I went to go do my next project, our craft would humble me by giving me an education that says, oh, no, you don't know everything. I said, it's not that we are humble, it's that our craft, or whatever, I'm talking metalworking, woodworking, whatever, leatherworking, whatever you're talking about, it always has a way of humbling you and letting you know you don't know everything yet. And so that kind of keeps us in that, if you want to call, I would necessarily call it humble. I would just say not beating our chest out loud, I'm the greatest. That's kind of the way I told her was the answer. If anybody wants to disagree with that, then go ahead. But I mean, I guess I'll ask Jamie and Steve now, because hopefully they've gotten over the fact that they're the greatest and can actually get into this.
Well, first of all, hello, and I'm Jamie, and I'm the greatest if you're listening. But secondly, what I was actually going to say, it was exactly what Chris was just said, was not just woodworking, but every craft is quick enough to teach you a goddamn lesson if you think you know it all, because you don't. Even master craftsmen in their chosen trade think they know it all, and they will be the first to admit that they don't know it all. And I can't remember who told me the story. It was quite recent, and there's a guy he's been doing I think it might have been some sort of Chinese woodworking or something like that, and he'd been doing it for something like 89 years, and he was a master woodworker or something like that, and he basically said, well, why haven't you stopped? And he goes, because I haven't finished learning. And that was a simple fact. And it's that, well, there you go. He's 89 years he's been doing it, and he's still learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there you go. There's still a hell of a lot to learn after nearly 90 years.
Steve, chime in.
Yeah, I'm just great. No, yeah, I think it depends on your personality as well. If you're the sort of person that kind of knows that you can do stuff, but you don't really get off on people giving you praise all the time, it comes across like that on social media as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Today was humbling for me. I was doing a show today, and I was teaching a lot of kids, and this kind of scenario kind of kicked in today, because I was getting kids that were shaking walking up to a lathe, and by the time they'd left, they had a spinning top in their hand, and they were absolutely buzzing the fact that they've just used a new machine. And as I said to a lot of parents, they were like, oh, it must take so long to get used to using this and being able to do what you do. And I said, well, no, your son has just walked off with a spinning top that he's just turned, and he's only just seen the machine. So you're only as good as what you know.
Right.
That's it. You're only as good as the things you know, and the things you've repeated over and over and over in your life.
And I think
when you add something new to it, that's when you get a kick in the ass, and you think, oh, okay, I'm still learning.
Andy Pugh just made a good point out in the chat as well. He said, in his experience, self-declared experts are dangerous people.
Yeah, very, very, very much. But again, I'm glad he used the word expert, because that kind of relates almost back to what Steve was could have headed towards. So let's take the spinning top thing. I mean, an expert I think is defined as somebody that knows a huge amount about a very specific small area. So you could, I guess, become an expert spinning top turner. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sure. I only know about turning spinning tops, whereas somebody else might only be interested in turning pens, or let's say pens, but you as a spinning top then turn a pen, and a pen turner then turns a spinning top, and they both go horribly wrong or turn out like their first respective project. Do you see where I'm going? So it kind of in our little making things world, whether it's out of wood or leather or metal or whatever, well, I think for me what keeps it interesting is always having something new to try. Because if I was only ever making spinning tops or only ever making pens, I would get bored with that. And I do a lot of very similar projects.
But here's the lesson I think we need to come away with today, and it's kind of the reason why I asked the question. Because even though we all could do what we're doing to the day we die, and that on our deathbed we would still say, I have something to learn. The lesson in that question that I was asked from somebody who has no clue about this is, don't undersell yourself and your talents, because there are people out there beyond our community that look at you as amazing. And it's more of a reason for you to believe in, if you look into, especially if you sell things, believe in your craft, believe in your talent, believe in what you do. Do not undersell yourself to people just because they're cheap. If they don't want to pay your price, then don't lower your price because somebody's cheap. Keep your price the way it is for somebody who's going to appreciate it, because I guarantee you 90% of the people out there who don't know which end of a hammer to freaking use are going to think, no matter if you turn a pen or simply put a box together, they're going to think that's freaking amazing, because they have no clue how to do it. So don't sell yourselves short is what that question told me. I didn't want to say that to her, but I think as a lesson for the maker community, that's a good lesson to learn, because you should not undersell yourself, because there's a population out there that thinks you're awesome, regardless of what your peers think of you. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, not the real Steve had a good point. He said he said reasons we're humble, aside from the obvious imposter syndrome, is because we know enough to see the flaws. The more we know, the higher our standards become.
That's that's true. That, and Steve, I agree. Okay, not the real Steve. I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's also quite the flip side of that, because if you are not humble and you're like, yeah, I know, that's really good, isn't it? Oh no, good. There's always every time you do that, there's going to be 100 people going to go, and they're more than you, and they'll go, well, actually, what about that? And what about that? And what about that? And what about that? That no one else would see. So it's kind of like, on the one hand, you sort of almost, it's kind of I think for a lot of people, it's kind of a get out clause. And I'll openly admit to using that as a get out clause before. It's like, well, it's got a few little defects in it, because you're never quite sure whether that person mentioning it just knows a little bit more than you. And
there will always be someone better than you, that is willing to let you know that they are better than you.
Justin Christensen.
Yeah, and well, Justin is kidding. Let's be honest. Everybody knows
just for instance, that awkward moment when you've spent hours and hours and hours practicing the skew on the lathe, and you decide to do a live and say, hey, look, I can use the skew now, and you turn something, and then Steve Jones, the master, jumps on the live and says, Jesus, that's taken you forever. I would have had 10 of them done by now.
Yeah.
And you just want to hit, okay, stop live feed.
But then there's only, I think, those kind of people. He was
only jesting, though. He was only
joking. I mean, those kind of people are few and far between, because again, those sorts of people generally know that actually there's like, just message Steve privately, rather than, hey everyone, look how bad Steve is and how much better I am, because that's how it always comes across. And even when you say it in jest, there's going to be 20 people go.
I should have saved that question for when we had nothing to talk about, because we actually have a topic we need to talk about today, guys. We should probably probably get into that. I mean, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, because I don't think it takes a lot of time to cover this. But I mean, this is where I wanted to get the chat involved and get people talking with us about what they think. And I think what was the title of this thing? Is it worth the money? I think is what we titled this episode. And this may fall under, let's be honest, this may fall under the I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it category. But considering most of us don't have an overabundance of shop expense money just kicking around, I think it's fair to say that most of us kind of have to sort of be selective about what we buy and what we don't. So with that in mind, tools or jigs or gadgets that are worth the money or not. And we can even talk about higher end things too. I mean, because the maker community gets advertised a lot too, and not a lot of the items that we get advertised about, or at least that I happen to pay attention to, are extremely expensive. But I always question their validity, because on the list today, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a list of a bunch of items here, and out of this entire list, I own one of these items, and so I can only tell you that my opinion on the whole list that I have in front of me basically comes down to what I saw value in. The rest of it, I didn't, but other people might. So if you want, I'll start off and we can say, and then this is where the chat can chime in and start naming items that they would like to know about. And for instance, the micro jig gripper, the push stick, the plastic push stick you use on your table saw. I think that roughly the basic model here in the United States goes for $60. Is that worth the money? or isn't it? And you can probably put this in two categories. And you can say, category one, I hang my head in shame because I did waste the money on that. Or number two, I'm proud to say that I was one of the smartest people on the entire planet because I saw the value on that, and I currently have it, and I currently use it. So, I mean, one or two, the micro jig gripper, the plastic push stick that micro jig sells, worth it or not? Does anybody, Richard,
Worthless.
Jamie, Steve, do you actually, do either one of you, do any of you own that? First of all, let me ask.
Yeah,
No.
I do actually. I've got one. I've got two, in fact.
Okay.
I don't, and I'll jump in here and I'll tell you why. And it's probably going to be pretty much the same for a lot of tools similar to that. Is that I look at it and I think, A, do I really need it? And B, can I make one that's going to do the same job and not cost me any money at all? Because I have a very limited budget.
Mm-hmm.
And that's normally the route I go, is I make some kind of sacrificial jig or tool or something that does the job, and I can replace it if it gets broken, and I can still feed my kids then next week.
All right, Richard, you own one. So, I mean, and I don't know what you paid for it. Obviously you paid for it in pounds. I'm looking at dollars here, but, and cost aside, worth it or not worth it?
I'm gonna side with Steve on this one, because I don't think personally it is, for me, worth the money. And the reason is, A, because you can make it, and I had a very similar thing out of wood before that, because I contacted Microjig and they sent me two.
Okay.
So what I paid was the import duty.
So you never paid full price for one and had it shipped to you.
Yeah, so it was heavily discounted for the ticket price. But no, I don't think it's worth it, because for me personally, it was not really. It's better than just a few blocks of wood in terms of it's all adjustable and all the rest of it. But it's also a pain in the arse because it's kind of adjustable. It's a double-edged sword, and it slips. After it gets a bit of sawdust on it, it slips, whereas the bit of MDF, or the bits of MDF I was using, it doesn't. And actually, I tend to use the plastic sticks more, like the kind of gooseneck type sticks.
The push sticks, as opposed to more of a...
Yeah. But that's it. Go on. No, stop. I haven't finished. They do the other ones. They do like the flat paddle things that look like the whole clear, boom, defibrillator things.
Yes.
Those are really good. They're a lot cheaper, and they are really good.
I agree with you. When you're using a jointer, those come in very handy. I agree with you.
Or a bandsaw or a router table, or you can use them on the table saw as well.
I'm not going to argue with that, and I've never even used them, but I see the value in that.
Yeah.
But $60 for a push stick, and this becomes down, and it's a personal thing. And guys, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad that has one and loves it and went out and spent money on it. If you have it and you use it and it works for you, then it's worth the freaking money. I mean, let's be honest. I'm just what I will explain to you is that the reason why I didn't buy it is because I'm kind of old school. I use a push shoe on my table saw, and have since I was an early teenager. And that is what I'm comfortable with. When I start using things that I'm not comfortable with, and it comes to a table saw, I get kind of jittery about it. I don't want to use something I'm not comfortable with using. So I use scrap wood, and I cut out my own push shoes to push wood through a table saw. So we're not trying to put down Microjig or the gripper. If you have one and you love it, then far out, good for you. I just never saw the value in investing $60 into a piece of plastic when I can cut up a piece of scrap wood and do the same damn thing, at least in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, and that's the way it should be taken.
I don't own one because it just it's basically too big for the Scrollsaw.
I was going to say, Jamie, you don't own a table saw or a...
Oh, I do, yeah.
You've got one, have you?
Yeah.
Sorry. But how much do you use your table saw?
I think I've used it once since I've had it. It was an impulse buy, truth be told. It was when I first got into woodworking, I thought I needed everything. I thought I was going to be a massive cabinet maker, and I turned into a scroll saw artist / wood turner.
So that would actually end up being, because let's be honest. I mean, I'm thinking low end ish cost items are probably under $100 or £100, and then higher end are the ones that cost more than that. So
Yeah.
for you and what you do, your table saw would have been something you could have done without.
Basically, so you can blame our good friend Joe Whittaker for his awesome reviews for that purchase. Because I saw his review and went out and bought one.
It's kind of amusing because, and I know Chris wants to move on. He's like, shut up. But it's interesting because I see a lot of US based workshops where the table saw is the center of the workshop, like literally and figuratively. I mean, I'm going to say, Chris, you probably use your table saw more than anything else in your workshop. Yeah?
Well, let's be honest. If you're doing flat work, then a table saw is the backbone of your workshop. You cannot have a workshop and do flat work without a table saw. I mean, that is the first tool you should freaking own.
See, that's the thing. See, I don't think that is. I genuinely don't think that is.
Then I genuinely disagree with you, but go ahead.
but that's what I mean. I think there's a very continental opposing views here, because I mean, I'd love to have a massive like Altendorf style table saw, 8x4 sheets straight in, but I haven't got the space for it. And so many people in the UK.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, because you're discounting the use of it because of your space limitation.
Well, not necessarily, because I've got one and I use it, but no, I think I didn't have a table saw in my workshop for a lot longer than I have had a table saw in my workshop. And the time I've had it, I haven't used it as much as I thought I would when I didn't have it. Does that make sense?
But is that because, well, let me ask, is that because of your space limitations, or is it because you have no use for it? What I'm trying to do, Richard, is trying to get you outside of your own personal space and put you into a space where you would feel comfortable, large workshop, you know, much like the acreage you think I own, and then tell me, and then tell me that wouldn't be a go-to tool. Honestly, I mean, I can understand, like, if you're in Joe's shed, like Joe Whittaker's shed, and he's barely got any room to, you know, stretch his elbows and do this, I can understand why a table saw would not be a convenient tool to use. But if you have the space to stretch your arms and you're doing flat work, how is a table saw not like the backbone of your freaking shop? Well, I don't get that.
Well, I can go to pretty much all of my suppliers and all my normal suppliers,
and you're going to trust them to cut that to the right length and the right width, and you're going to let.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, God, you're a brave man.
No,
because I lose because they do. Your Home Depot would screw that up in a heartbeat. Well, I'd have to pay for it.
Yeah, obviously there are places around here where that you wouldn't use them, but my genuinely, hand on heart, I've got two big suppliers that I use a lot, and they will cut it accurately. And actually, even if it's not millimeter to millimeter, it's all the same. So if I want something 2 foot wide, no, seriously, because if you want something 2 foot wide for the two sides of a box, and they cut it 1'11" and
whatever,
63, do you know what I mean? As long as they're the same, that's the important thing.
Okay, well, whatever. I mean, okay, so table saw on a high end purchase is something you don't mind having, but you don't feel it's a must-have.
No, genuinely not.
I suppose you could always get away with a track saw.
Well, I mean, there are other tools. I mean, everyone always says, yeah, it's more to skin a cat and all the rest of it. But yeah, track saw, great. Even in a large space, I think I'd probably trust a track saw.
And okay, I'm not going to discount that. I'm just going to say using a table saw and adjusting a fence is a lot easier to set up and run wood through than a track saw. That's my point. Let's leave it. No, I don't want to talk about table saws all night long. I got more stuff here to talk about. All right, let's move on. Richard and I happen to disagree.
Table saw, worth it or not worth it?
Absolutely effing worth it. I don't care who you're talking to. If you're a woodworker and tell me you don't need a table saw, then I'm going to look at you and go, you're freaking high.
Okay, saw stop.
Oh, very good, Brandon. I will just add this. I bought a table saw. Just because it was going for a very good price at the time. And I use it very rarely. And like other tools that I have, when I do use it, when I've done with it, I always turn around and say, do you know what? I'm really glad I bought that tool.
Yeah. that falls into the I'd rather have it and need it than need it and not have it. And you know, and that's fine. That's fine. And it like Steve, you're a turner. Jamie, you're a scroll sawer, and you also do turning. So I could understand why a table saw might not be first on your friggin' list. I do flat work. Richard does. I don't know what the hell Richard does. Anyway,
well, don't forget also, Chris, I do a lot of stuff.
And we're still talking about it. I want to move on here. Go ahead.
All right, fine.
All right. Stuff that's advertised to makers. Okay, things that you need to have. The Casper mattress. No, wait a minute. Okay, that's something totally
wrong show.
wrong
channel. I mean,
okay, that's a different show. I apologize. Craig pocket hole jig. The Craig pocket hole jig. Obviously, very advertised. A lot of makers have used it, shown it. Is it worth the money or not? I think the Craig, and I'm looking at it because you can buy several different variations of it. So you can spend $40 to $100, or I guess even more on some of the newer ones. But a Craig pocket hole jig, is that worth having in any shop or no? And once again, let's make this clear. It's the same thing as a table saw with Steve and Jamie and you, Richard, and myself. If it's not your cup of tea to have that tool to do the work that you want to do, then obviously it's not going to be worth it. But as an overall woodworker person, is that an investment that you would not be happy? That you would be unhappy that you got it? Is that money that you think you would have wasted if you bought it?
I've never done a pocket hole in my life.
Okay. I bought a pocket hole jig about maybe 10 years ago. It wasn't a Craig one because at the time you couldn't get Craig in the UK, or it was really, really difficult, or I didn't know where you get them from. So I bought one by Trend, and it was about the same price pound to dollar as the Craig ones were advertised on Amazon. But it's all metal. It's not, the thing I don't like about the Craig is it's basically plastic.
Well, the inserts that you run the drill through are actually metal, but the outside is plastic. I hear you.
Yeah, okay. So if you drop that plastic with the metal inserts, it's more likely to break than if it's all made of metal. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So from my point of view, something that is plastic and metal against something that's all metal, to say Craig, I'd say junk myself personally. I've only used the little, they did like a little tiny one. There's like a single pocket hole.
Yeah, that's the one that costs. That's the one that costs like $39 with the drill bit and everything you need to get started. That package is like $39.99 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was literally one pocket hole thing, and that's all you got. I think that and the drill. But I first time I drilled it, I was pulling out bits of blue plastic with the drill bit. I really didn't like that. But pocket hole's awesome. I know Steve just said he hasn't drilled one, but I think they're great. I use them a lot because I can hide fixings and move on quickly. And whether it's on a workshop, time is money kind of job, or whether it's just something that somebody's making on the weekend and they want to just have something at the end, I think that's brilliant. I genuinely do. And I think too many people diss pocket hole joinery as not real woodworking.
I agree with you 100%. Richard, I'm right there with you. And whether it's Craig or somebody else's, I think a pocket hole jig, even if you only use it for shop jigs to slap two pieces of wood together to use as a jig to get a project accomplished, well worth the money. How much you want to spend depends on how devoted you are to doing pocket holes, I guess. I mean, I think I spent $60 for the one I have, and I've gotten my money's worth out of it. So in my opinion, worth the expenditure. Now, Jamie, how many scroll saw projects have you pocket holed together? I'm just curious.
None.
Okay, I'm guessing I know Jamie's answer to this one. I'm guessing. All right. Here's the next one. The Team Scrollsaw T-shirt, I think, is absolutely worthless. I don't think there's any need for anybody to ever want to buy one of those. No point
buying one of those, especially this year. No point buying one of those.
Yeah,
no.
I mean,
you're better off saving your money for the hashtag.
We're gonna have T-shirts available on our site this coming Wednesday, so just in time for Maker Central, so you can come out and support your hashtag team whatever. They're going to be on the website on Wednesday, and that was a cheap promotional plug, but I still back up my claim that the Team Scrollsaw shirt is not worth the money. But
No,
I mean,
not working.
but like I said, that's my workshop.
We're still going to kick Team Turner's ass.
See, I thought
We'll
Jamie,
see, JP. We'll see.
Jamie had a different opinion. I thought maybe possibly on that. Okay, all right. So
It'll be Team Forge next year.
onward and forward from the shameless plug.
So just before we move on, Chris, for the shameless plug, as people, because I'm trying to incite conversation from the chat. A lot of people, going back to the pocket hole thing, a lot of people are saying they do like it and that it is joinery, just like we were saying. People have mentioned Craig and other brands as well. Genuinely, I think if you're going to go brand specific on a pocket hole jig, that's personal preference in the same way, whether you're a to take an Americanism, a Ford or Chrysler or whatever your brand is for a pickup truck or whatever your type of vehicle is. Totally up to the individual and all the rest of it. But Dave, the wood barber, has mentioned this is, and I think this is highly, highly relevant, regardless of what the item is. He says, what if the money's burning a hole in your pocket?
Well, you know what? That falls back into the category of I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Because if you have the money and it's burning a hole in your pocket and you're looking at something, I say buy it. Go ahead and buy it. You may use it once, but as long as you don't mind knowing that, you're not, I'm probably never going to get my money back out of this tool, but I just want, because, I mean, let's be honest, we're all tool collectors, aren't we? I mean, whether we use them one time or never, it's just nice to know I got that sitting in the corner over there. So it's mine. I mean, we are. I mean, that's the kind of people we are. I mean, but I'm trying to keep things practical. But and basically your interruption, Richard, reminded me, the people out in the chat, if there are products or items that you think that we should bring up today, start listing them in the chat. Because I mean, let's get you involved. I mean, if you've got something in mind that maybe you feel a little embarrassed about having bought that you never use, or maybe you bought some kind of jiggity, kind of cheap, chintzy Chinese thing that you think is the best thing in the freaking world, let us know. I want to talk about it. So if you guys have anything, give us your input. Outside of that, I will quickly move on to other things that we have been advertised to about. Kaizen foam. Gentlemen, do any of you have the Kaizen foam inserts to where you can cut out and put in your tools or whatever the case may be into your shop so that they remain organized, and that so when you look around, when you turn around and look at that board, oops, something is missing. I need to go find it and then put it back. I mean, do you guys have that kind of setup in your shops or no?
I don't, but I know quite a few people that do have it. I would like to have it, to be honest. It seems like the sort of stuff I would use, and plus I need to get organised.
Yeah, Jamie's shop, I don't know about what right now, but it can be a little bit time consuming searching for certain items sometimes, as I recall. Would that be accurate, Jamie?
Yeah, it's a bit tidier since you was last there.
Not difficult.
But, yeah, I've swept up since.
I don't have Kaizen foam, but I have got a couple of sustainers with foam in. I just use like that plastic bubbly packaging, not bubble wrap, and not like you get the upholstery foam, like the really squishy cushion, like sofa cushion type,
right? Foam,
not that, but not the really dense, like rigid insulation foam. There's like an in-betweeny stuff, like my 3D printer came in a load of it, and so Jamie's and Steve's probably did as well. I save all that kind of stuff, and I cut it up and I hot glue it together with like little hodgepodge bits of square, rather than little nice little inserts. I just plonk the things in I want, and then hot glue blocks around it to stop it from jiggling around, and that works perfect. But I only do that in toolboxes that I carry around from place to place. I don't personally see a use for it in a drawer that only sits in a workshop.
I'm going to agree with Richard on that. I think there's instances where I would use it and instances where I wouldn't. To be honest with you, I've never bought any Kaizen foam, so that should tell the story on that. Peter Miller had a question, and actually, Peter, I had this written down. It's a good question too, regarding one of the more not necessarily, I'm not talking thousands of dollars tools, but what about a dovetail jig? Because a lot of them are out there. Is it something that you think is, Richard, I know you own one, but I mean, is it something you think is worth the money? Or do you think it is something that is a waste of money? And a lot of these dovetail jigs that are out there don't cost just $100. They cost several $100s. So this is an expenditure you really want to be sure of before you buy it. So, Richard, I know you own one. Give me your thoughts.
Well, actually two. I bought one a few years ago, one of the really expensive ones that could do just about 1 billion different things. It's basically like the Lee jig. Mm-hmm. But it's not a Lee jig. It's a trend one that they discontinued, and I think it was about 400 quid.
Yeah, not cheap.
And I've only used it, I think, probably count on one hand, probably. But it was used a lot, and it has paid for itself in that side. But you can buy them really cheap. You can buy them like 40 quid in the UK new. I found one today, actually, completely through another obscure, tenuous link. But they can be really cheap. Whatever you do, read the instructions, get the bits that jig says you need, and practice. And people, it really grinds me, and I'm going to get on my soapbox now. So if you're not into soapbox listening, you can mute. Seriously, when people see them either on a YouTube video or at a show being demoed, they only ever see it already all set up with bits of timber which are specific to that jig in terms to get all the nice layout patterns, and everything's all been tinkered with and done, and you just get, the money shot, and they fit together magically. And people see that and go, wow, I can do dovetail boxes. And then they go home in having bought one, and it's in bits, and they've got to assemble it, and they probably assemble it like a bit rickety or not quite right, or it needs a bit of tweaking, and then they've got to set the machine up, and then they've got to set the bits of wood up, and then they lose heart, and then they see a YouTube video because they get stressed and go, how does this work? And they see people, well-known, well-respected, well-followed people going, I bought this, I'm selling it, or I'm throwing it in the bin because I bought it 12 years ago and I've used it once and I can't remember how it works and it's just taking up space. And they think that that's the thing to do at the time. And it really bugs me, because if you have the right bits and you set it up and you take that time, just like any jig, it doesn't matter what the jig is, take the time to set it up, it will save you time in the long run, and it's a joy to use, I think. So even for somebody just playing around, wants to make some fancy boxes, I think it's worth it for 40 quid, because you got if you know how to use it, you'll use it down the line. If you get stressed with it because you don't take the time and effort, you won't, and then it's a waste of money. So that's my take on it. Steve?
Well, yeah, I spent 700 quid on a dovetail jig, and then thought, what a load of rubbish, because I couldn't get the dovetail tenon on my bowls to work with it. It just didn't work. So I just put it up in the cupboard. It's up here. I can't get it to work. Those dovetails on the tenons, I don't know how it works. Stupid thing. Rubbish. It's no good for tenors.
You know what? That should be your next challenge, Steve. Do a live on making a dovetail bowl. Anyway.
Right, you are.
I'm serious. That would be hard. Richard, to answer to respond to what you just said, I think that in your case where the jig itself has already paid for itself and you used it and you understand how to set it up properly, and so that in the future you could use it again, and the fact that it has already paid for itself underscores the fact that it was worth it to you. But let me give this but to you. If you are a home, I mean, Jamie and I and Steve are very much kind of a home workshop kind of guy. We go out into our shops because we enjoy spending our spare time out there doing what we are doing. I mean, I don't know how active Steve or Jamie is in selling things. I am extremely unactive in doing that. But I would like to know that there is an easier way to do it. I just don't necessarily want to spend $400 to do something easier when there are other ways to do that. So I cannot justify the expense for a dovetail jig knowing that I'm never going to make my money back out of it, and it's only going to become easier for me if I set it up right. So in my opinion, I've worked with a couple dovetail jigs that were set up correctly, and I was able to use them. I think the Porter cable jig that I used was probably the best one I've ever used. I've used like 3. But I can't justify the expenditure. So I'm not saying it's a bad tool. I'm just saying it's not worth the money.
it's got to be fit for purpose. Yeah, that's the other thing. Or
Yeah.
not fit for purpose, because presumably they all are when they're sold. It's got to be right for your specific requirements. It's got to be task relevant, I think is probably a better phrase.
Yes, if you do a lot of boxes, or if you do a lot of drawers and things of that nature, and you're doing it for a living, I think one of those makes a ton of sense, especially since you've already got it set up. Especially if you're in a production area, it just makes things that just makes sense. But for a home guy that's just looking to do one box, dovetail joint box for somebody, I don't know if that's worth $400 of expenditure. I really don't. I mean, it's up to you. If it is,
but that goes back to what Dave was saying. What I don't think, and we've said and agreed on this in the podcast before. It's like if you want to, then who's to? And you can, and you're not going to starve or be made homeless or go hungry or whatever. If you can and you want to, who is to say you can't? Maybe that's the caveat to put in here. For me, it probably isn't worth the money. For somebody else, quite maybe. Yes. All right. Next.
Well, I mean, what about the chat? Do we have any suggestions from the chat about things to talk about?
I've actually got something that I want to say is actually a really good thing to have, especially for a scroller. I'm not so sure it's a good purchase for other tools like the bandsaw or the table saw or any other saws that you're likely to cut your hand off. But for something where you're not likely to hurt yourself real bad, should you hit yourself with a blade, I'm going to say a pair of 3M work tunes.
Like the ear? You're talking about the earbuds?
Yeah, the ear defenders. Now, obviously you can get the ISO tunes or something like that. Now, if you've got the radio one, right, that works, but obviously that can sometimes get drowned out by the sound of the scroll saw. If you've got a scroll saw that sounds like a freight train coming through, right? So what have you got with the ear defenders? Obviously, they're sound cancelling headphones, but you can also got Bluetooth connected on them, and they've got a radio connected on them as well. That was arguably one of the best purchases I've ever bought. So you can just listen to podcasts on there. You can listen to, obviously, like I just said, radio, or if you've got music on your phone, they're just brilliant, to be honest with you.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, and there's a world. And Steve, unless you have something you want to add, I mean, go ahead.
There's no, I don't have any. I mean, the normal turning and that, but it's like anything. I mean, my stance on it. I buy what I can afford, and then I just make do if I can't. It's that simple.
Well, let me to wrap. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There was a couple of questions in the chat that just shot by, and I just mentioned. There's one kind of aimed at Richard. Router tables, at what point do they become a worthwhile investment over a slab of MDF with a basic plate in it?
I think actually fairly early on, personally, because it goes back to it. Yeah, you can make all these things. You can make pocket hole jigs, dovetail jigs, router tables. Yeah, most things. Pretty much everything that's on the market now by people like Woodcraft, Rockler, all those people. Yeah, they're not new. They're just newly marketed. So if it can be made, it can be made. So you can make it. Do you want to? Is it worth the effort? Now, I bought my router table when it first came out. It was a trend one. It was the one that it's now done by a lot of companies. So Craig make one that's almost identical to look at, and Axmits to do as well in the UK, almost identical. By the time I'd spent the money on the insert plate, which is what I kind of wanted first, so I could mount my router to the board of MDF, and got a no volt release switch and the materials to buy to make the fence and on all the bits, I basically spent the same as to buy the router table, because it came with the switch and it came with the insert plate and a metal fence and a feather board and a hold down and a guard and the mitre square and the T-track with it as well. And I didn't have to then make it. It was literally like 40 quid for the switch, 40 quid for the plate. And in fact, no, the switches then were about 90 quid to buy, but it was nearly as much to buy the plate and the switch and the MDF than it was to buy the whole lot, because the table wasn't that expensive and you got low. So you have to look at these things. But the flip side of that is, do you enjoy making it? And if your enjoyment is as much about making a router table, then do that, because that's basically, you hit the nail on the head. All the router tables out there are basically just a slab of wood, most of them MDF that have been melamine faced with a hole in the bottom. You know, that's what they always were. So,
and they can be made on Scrollsaw.
Yeah, again, it goes back to what you can afford and what you need, and you know,
the amount of time you want, and the amount of time you want to put into actually making that and making it as precise as the tool that you could buy.
It's not all, I don't think, an investment of money. I mean, somebody in the comments,
it's an investment of time.
That's the other thing. You've got to weigh that up, because, and I say this to people all the time on my router courses that come in. A lot of people come in and they're like, oh, they see the catalogue and they're like, oh, kids in a sweet shop, like we all are. But it's like, well, do you need that? Or are you doing this because you like making things? Or are you doing this because you want to make money from it? Because you can make a hinge jig. Easy.
Yeah. Well, that is absolutely two different perspectives. If you're looking two different perspectives entirely, if you're looking to make money or if you're doing it for fun, there's a distinction there that absolutely has to be made, because if you're doing it for money, then that tool has to pay for itself. If you're doing it for fun, if you're doing it for fun, then you have to do it within the budget you have, and also you have to consider how often I'm going to use this as to whether you should make that investment. Steve, did you have anything else? I mean, because you said you had a couple from the chat.
Yeah, there was just I've looked in the chat there just recently, but Jim Dockrell said the smaller tools, the marking gauges, squares, hand saws, chisels, you know, the quality of those that you get. And then just to add to that, a lot of people are saying that, and I would truly agree, is the first thing that you get in your workshop, and don't be afraid to spend a bit of money on it, is the PPE, the first aid kit, and fire extinguisher. That's the first things that should go into your shop before you spend any money on any tools.
You know, I saw that too, and I was going to say that one thing that is absolutely, and I think universally can be agreed upon, is some sort of a first aid kit in your shop. I don't care if you keep it in a brown bag stuck under your workbench, something that's just a collection of gauze and friggin' tape. You need to have some sort of first aid in your shop. That is absolutely correct. I mean, do you need to buy the box that hangs on the wall that says first aid on it? I don't know. I mean, if that's what makes you happy, then go do it. But I think something along,
you can make a box to go on the wall with dovetail corners.
Well, Jamie could scroll saw a first aid kit, but I mean, let's get serious. I mean, honestly, for your own safety and for your own well-being, a first aid kit of some sort belongs in every workshop. There's no disagreement there.
I would also add to that, if you get the chance, and it is well worth it, to go and do the basic first aid course to know what to do if you have a bad injury, then it could save a digit.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's wrap this conversation up real quickly, and I'll do it with one question for each one of you.
Team Scrollsaw.
And I'll start with Richard.
Turner.
No, and I'm gonna end this on a kind of a negative, just so we can all have a laugh. Richard, tell me one thing that you've bought for your shop that you've wasted your money on.
Glue bot.
I'm sorry, what?
A glue bot.
A glue bot. Okay, you know that.
What was I thinking? Because my glue doesn't come in a bottle; it just comes in like a blob, doesn't it?
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with that. The glue bots are, not my thing either. Steve, what have you bought that you've never used, or maybe tried once and have put it on a shelf and it's now collecting dust? What have you wasted your money on?
Honestly, nothing, because my budget is so tight. that I've got to really need that tool or have a reason to buy that tool before I buy it. And that's the honest truth. I've not bought anything for my shop that I don't use.
Well, God, love you. Good for you. Because, I mean, you are definitely in the minority. Jamie, what about you? Besides the table saw.
Honestly, the Craig jig.
Really?
I bought it, never used it. At least I used the table saw.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, for you, that makes sense. But for me, you know what it was? I bought something. It was gimmicky, and it's not gimmicky. I don't want to put it like that. It was something that I looked at as something that would be very cool. Do you know those little bars that have a lot of little fine needles that go through the bar that you can push up against like a molding, and it will give you, and it will give you the shape of a molding that you can then trace onto a piece of wood so that you can cut around the piece and then fit it to go around. I bought one of those because I said, you know what, that would be, when I need that, I'm going to really want that.
I want that.
I bought that 25 years ago, and guess what? I've never needed it. So it's one of those.
I tell you, Chris, if ever you have to do any kind of reproduction on the lathe, if anybody asks you to copy a particular mold, it comes in really handy. I've got one that I have fixed a piece of tuber one, and if I have to do molds that are exactly the same, I'll turn one, push it into it, and pull it back, tape it, and then that's my jig for turning exact molds.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It all depends on what you do in your shop as to whether it was worth it or not. From what I've done in my shop, I've never used the damn thing. And look, I didn't waste more than $15 on the thing because that's pretty much what it cost. But it was the one tool when I walked out my workshop knowing we we're going to do the show today. I was like, what haven't I ever used? And I looked at it and went, I've never used that thing, and I bought it. So that's my shame.
And to be honest with you, you can make them with lolly sticks and elastic band.
All right, so see, even more humiliation comes my way. Thanks, Steve. I'm so glad you're here. Let's wrap this thing up. Maybe we can carry on this conversation on another day. But anybody got any shout outs?
Yes,
wait a minute.
I've got a shout out.
Wait a minute. Jamie, do you have your biography ready for us today?
I was just about to say, but first I've got to do the Jamie's page. Right. So first of all, as everyone knows, Makers Central is coming up. So and
really?
It's coming up rather rapidly now. So we've got just under a month to go. So I've just sorted out the store with our Makers Rhapsody shirts. So not only are we selling the Makers Rhapsody shirts men's style, we've also now got hoodies and females style shirts
Hoodies
up in the store.
We have hoodies. We got hoodies.
Hoodies.
Oh damn it!
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get one of those because I use hoodies all the time. Anyway, go ahead.
So if you bump into any thuggish-looking teenagers in the street, point them over to give them the link, and then they can be trendy.
No, see, you put the hood on, then you put the hat on, then you put the dark glasses on, you look like the Unabomber. It's great.
Yeah. So we got hoodie. we were going to get leggings and socks as well, but we went against that. So yeah, we've got them up.
Makers Rhapsody socks or leggings. You could have our pictures plastered on your ass. Well, that's there you go. Let's do that.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can fart on us.
Yeah. Apart from that, there's as we've mentioned already during the show, you'll have the Team Scrollsaw and Team Router. No, not Team Router. Team Turner. Shirts. They will be up on the website at some point during the week, probably before Wednesday, when this gets released. So keep an eye out for them. I'm sure I'll promote it across the board as and when it comes out. So they'll be ready for Makers Central.
Awesome.
Don't worry about the Team Scrollsaw ones, though. Don't worry about those.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll still beat you in selling them. Don't worry. You don't have to buy them all myself.
Jamie and Julian are going to get together again and hang out.
I'll buy them all myself and give them all out for nothing.
And buy 40 of them at once. Anyway. Oh, my gosh. What else you got?
Right. What else have I got? Oh yeah, I've got a giveaway going on over on my channel at the moment. To win a hybrid egg. That's about it for that. If you want to win that. That's it for Jamie's page.
Did you mention the stickers?
Yeah, there's stickers over there as well.
Congratulations.
On the website, that's
Concise.
makersinternationalpodcast.com.
And I hate to be a stickler, but Jamie, did you actually have a shout out?
Yes, I do.
Okay, there you go.
My shout out this week goes to Sebastian Alares. He made a industrial side table made from beams. And it's got a special feature. Now it already looks good as a side table, but is that its actual purpose? That's the question. You have to go and check out the video to see if that's what it's meant for. So yeah, go and check out Sebastian Alares. Absolutely great content, and I love his video editing style as well, which is I'm trying to find my own kind of style at the moment. Since I've kind of upped my game. So yeah, check out Sebastian's channel.
He's an awesome dude too. And and sometimes, Jamie, we just need to hold your hand and bring you along across the street. I'm just saying. And I'm seeing a lot of people putting in their own team hashtag, whatever they come up with. And are we doing blank team whatever so that people who aren't into turning or team Scrollsaw, that we can like put a blank there, and so people can do team and then they can write in whatever team they're on type thing?
Team on board. I got dragged here by my husband.
And also, I've forgot to mention for Jamie's page. Sorry, Chris, that's not ready. You got to do.
God.
That's twice. That's twice.
Also on the podcast website, for Maker Central, you can go to the top of the page, and under the section where it says stickers, you can go there and get a £20 discount off checkout for your stickers. So big thumbs up for that.
The other Steve, not the real one, but the other Steve just said team cute. No, Steve, that's just never going to happen. I'm sorry anyway.
So like Chris was just saying, we're going to get some team blank stickers. So bring your Sharpies to Maker Central, fill in the blank, and be whatever team you like. So if you want to be team cute, Steve, be team cute.
No, Steve, don't be. God, please. God, talk
all
about
us Steves are cute.
You can bring sexy back.
That's the opposite of it moved. Anyway, Steve or Richard, shout out.
Go on, Steve.
Oh, okay. That means Richard's still looking.
My shout out is Mr. Paul Wilmore. He did a really cool shelf to display his. He's got a collection of crystals and precious stones, and he made a triangular pyramid type shelf. And it's cool. Well done, Paul. Nice video, and I like the effect it had. Well done.
Nice job. And Paul's a great guy, too. I mean, he's going to be at Maker Central, I believe, again. And if you have the opportunity to meet Paul, meet him. Humblest, nicest person in the world. Go say hi to Paul. Great guy.
Paul Wilmore's World of Wood.
Absolutely. And Richard, I'll give you some more time. Because
I've got mine. I knew. I was looking through the comments on in the chat, actually. And Gerald, this was for you, Jamie. Gerald's asking, what team boxes or briefs in the Teespring thing? That's Maker's Rhapsody boxes or briefs.
We don't know what there's going to be yet. You never know.
Wait. That's a sticker. We need to do a sticker. We need to do a sticker that just says boxes or briefs with a question mark on it. It's not
there might even be a sticker that says Jamie's page.
That won't sell, Jamie, because just the song sucks. But boxes or briefs,
I don't have to sell. They'll be given away.
I've got a good idea. We could just do blank white stickers, and people can just put what they want on them.
That's genius. It would save on the printing costs as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll just go.
I think they're just called
labels.
they're just called labels, aren't
We'll
they?
just go to the local office shop and buy blanks and say, "Here, you can be whatever you want to be."
You can make your own. We'll take potatoes with us and knives,
Yeah.
and then you can carve your own, and then a little pot of paint, and you can just.
And people you don't know, you can just stick it on them and go, "You can be who you want to be," and they're going to go, "Oh, thank you for the permission." Oh my God. Anyway, all right, I'll give you my shout out this week. I'm a space geek. Okay, I admit it. Used to build rockets. So I freely admit it. All right. So the coolest video I saw this week was a live stream by SpaceX. Did you guys see this?
No.
No.
So disappointing.
I've got about as much interest in that as I have in what Jamie's underpants are.
All right. Well, then I'm not going to take too much time with it. It was the launch with
I'll stop sending you the pictures then.
Anyway, it was SpaceX's launch of the Falcon Heavy. They landed all 3 of the booster engines, 2 of them at Cape Canaveral, the third one at sea on a drone ship in the Atlantic. And I'm sorry if you saw that and you didn't think that was just friggin' awesome. I don't know what to say about you. I mean, anyway, all right. So that's my shout out, SpaceX. I mean, because it was just the coolest video I saw this week. I apologize. I know it's not maker related.
That's the video, and I forgot to watch it. So
Well, it is maker related because someone made the rocket, didn't they?
And somebody made it so it could land the boosters. And yeah, I mean, I just thought that was freaking awesome. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. It's truly impressive. If you want to see it, there's going to be a link down in the description. Check it out. If you're like Steve and you want to remain a dumbass, then
No. So we've now got another sticker, and it's hashtag Team Space Cadet.
You know what? I'll own that. I'll own that one. And you know what? If you want to make a propeller for my head right here and make it go around, I'll wear it. I swear to God, I'll wear it. Anyway, okay.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is why we're doing the blank ones. But my shout out this week, I did have one, Chris. I thought you could. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well, you took forever to get around to it, so I figured I'd hop in.
I sent you the link. My shout out this week is Keith's Test Garage. It wasn't a channel that I'd come across before, never heard of him. But they've got this literally genius. You know, when people store their router bits, they get a board or a block, and they drill holes in them, and they put the little router bits in them. But he's done none of that. He's used slots, just dado slots in boards, and he's
I did see that. It was actually very cool.
And put them in the intersection, and he's made them for all his bits from 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and he said it took him about 20 minutes. And you can store all the little collet spanners and wrenches in there as well. Absolutely, I was like, that's a genius. It's one of those things that you see over and over again, drilling holes in a board, and you see these things marketed by stores with little plastic blocks with holes in that all clip together, and that's people just go down that route, and somebody's just gone, but what about that? And it's a much better design for a workshop, I think. Absolutely brilliant. He goes through the whole thing, and it's hilarious as well. There's a little gem of a joke. I literally laughed for about 5 minutes while I was watching it, and then let's rewind it. So go and watch that one. Absolutely fantastic. Keith's Test Shop, spot on.
Awesome.
And I've sent you the link, Chris.
Thank you, sir.
I'm just going to go and watch that for the joke and not the rest of it.
You do what you like, Steve. It's more interesting than turning.
Let me pre-promote our show next week. I believe the week following, we're going to be talking about Maker Central, because boys and girls, a lot of people are getting excited about that, and that is right around the corner. So Maker Central is the topic next week.
Yeah.
Are we going to be telling people about what we're doing on the Maker stand, which is just opposite the Gorilla Glue stage, and with all the
No, we're not. We're going to be telling people about how they should come to Connecticut instead of the UK, because I can't go.
So we're here next week. Whether or not Mr. Sourpuss Chris will join us, we don't know.
6,000 people can fit in your workshop as well, Chris.
How to ignore Chris in split seconds? Go ahead, guys. I'm sorry.
So the new sticker now is hashtag Make Chris Sick.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. You guys are
Hashtag-
so nice.
Hashtag sick and Chris.
So yes, as Chris has already alluded to, we will. There's nearly 40 people. There's 39 people. That's nearly 40 people. 40 people would have sounded better. People still watching. So make sure you join us here next week because we will be talking all things Maker Central. If you're coming to Maker Central, make sure you're in the chat. Tell us what you're doing because actually we want to know about what you guys are doing, not just if you are going and to enjoy it, but also if you're on a stand, what your stand's doing and all those things as well, because stands have got things going on that we don't find out about and that people will miss. So if you want to promote your little stand, it'd be a good idea. Let us know. And if we think it's good and interesting, Chris might let us talk about it. Mightn't you, Chris?
What do you mean? I might like.
Because you're going to be all Mr. Sourpuss because you can't come anymore. Which is, I'm Mr. Sourpuss about it. I miss you already.
Well, I'm already looking at the next 2 weeks of talking about something I can't go to, and I automatically regret. And so, if I'm willing to suck that up, I don't need your abuse, Mr. Morley. I mean, freaking, let's get on with it. I'm willing to suck this up.
My friend, my pal, my bestest buddy.
What?
I've got one little bitty small shout out that I did promise I was going to shout out, and I just forgot to tell you. But you can add to it.
Send me a link.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, I will do. Yeah, Chris and Nicola Fisher. Chris is the blind wood turner. They have just started their very own podcast.
I saw that, and I watched it. It's great.
Brilliant idea. They did their first podcast last Monday. It's going to be Mondays. I believe it's 7:30. I'm not 100% sure, but when we do the show notes, it'll be there anyway. It's just Chris and Nicola talking about whatever they want to talk about. It's not all about Chris's wood turning and that. It's just them talking about everything, you know, about Chris's blindness and how he gets over it and their general day-to-day life. They're a really interesting couple to listen to, and I think it's going to be an awesome show moving forward. So if you could all head over Monday night it's called At Home with the Fishers. It's a brand new YouTube channel, so if you can just search for that, At Home with the Fishers. It's a podcast. They're going to do it live every Monday. Please go over, show them some love, and listen in next time because I think it's going to be an awesome show.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the first episode they did was absolutely awesome. I loved it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're talking about getting some guests on as well with visual problems as well, aren't they? So
yes, exactly.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, well,
no problem.
If Richard can get his nose out of his belly.
Richard! Sorry, I'm getting drawn in by our live chat listeners and all the rest of it. I think I might have made a mistake on the Leona Faye Woodturner said it's Keith's Test Garage. I don't think she was shouting, but it was all in capitals. Is that not what I said? I'm sure I said Keith's Test Garage.
Richard, what you should be saying is, thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back next week, and have a nice week, everybody. Because we're now 15 minutes over, so wrap this freaking thing up, will you?
What Chris said.
God.
See you later, everybody.
Catch you later.
Have a great week, everybody.
What's a Craig jig?
All right, fair enough. I think I can edit that into something that makes us look like we have a clue, sort of, but not really. Anyway.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, Chris.
Actually, I've got a quick question for Steve. Steve, have you noticed that Team Router have conceded this year?
Yes.
I think you mean conceited.
No,
no, what?
Conceded.
It was never even on the radar, to be honest with you.
Jamie, you can't ask the person who got defeated to get involved again. I mean, the whole point of doing the team thing competition was last year we did it. You won. Richard goes away. Next year is this year, and now we have a Turner. So let's do. I mean, because if we did Team Scrollsaw versus Team Chris Flatwork, I'm going to lose. I mean, let's be honest. I think Team Turner is honest, good competition for the Team Scrollsaw people, and I will go on record right now. And Jamie, unless you spend every dollar you own buying T-shirts, you're going to lose this time, because I think there's a lot more people.
No, I'm not.
Oh, I think there's a lot more people that are committed to lathe turning and more passionate about turning than there are people that are scroll sawers. I could be wrong.
Well, see.
But my money is on Team Turner this year, and that's not a BS. I won't be me a year from now going, I know Steve was going to lose, like I was last year with Richard, because I knew he was going to lose. This year, I think Steve is going to win it, Jamie, and I think you're going to have to go,
Well,
yeah.
Jamie's already shown his fear by setting up a group.
Yeah, he has.
To get back in, you know, to get back in.
He actually
you know,
set up a Facebook group called Team Scrollsaw, as if that was some sort of ploy to promote his. Yeah, give me a break, Jamie.
I did. Yeah.
Are you guys still doing your like versus projects for Maker Central?
Yeah.
That are going to be judged?
Yeah.
Have you decided?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I'm gonna start mine and probably finish it at Maker Central.
I just
won't have time.
Risky.
I won't have time to do, because I've got stuff to do before Maker Central. So I'll try and get it done, but I can't promise anything.
Well, can I suggest something? Because we've got 4 weeks before Maker Central happens, and considering the amount of time scroll sawing takes, would it not be advisable for you guys to do your scroll saw projects beforehand and perhaps do your turning projects at Maker Central? Just because they can be done at Maker Central, whereas you cannot, Jamie, you cannot scroll saw a portrait of the Queen at Maker Central. So I'm just saying, but you could turn another egg, another hybrid egg, or something along those lines. There, I mean, it's a suggestion, guys. Take it or leave it. I don't care.
What the hell's happened to my?
He could do the Queen on his workbench.
I don't know, but Jamie, you all of a sudden look like Eloy. You look like Eloy.
My internet might go.
Jamie's got the floating head happening right now.
I think my internet might go.
All right. Well, I tell you what. Then let's just go ahead and wrap this up and be done with it. Everybody out in the chat, thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry you had to listen to our abuse, but it is appreciated.
Thank you, Lucky.
Yeah, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all.
All right. Everybody have a good night. We'll talk to you next week.